My name is Maria Weiner, and I'm the president of Florida Caregivers Network. So I am so ready to start this day. I've been ready for the past 7 months.
So have we.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the second annual Caregiver Conference, Getting Real About Reality. Today will be a special day for all the caregivers in this room and professionals that care or know someone that lives with dementia. I hope that by the end of this day, you guys are re-energized with all this information we're going to give you, have the tools, have all the resources for you to take care of your loved one. So we're going to start, and we're going to get real about reality.
Let's get on with the next session. Our next two speakers are the head of first responders in Pinellas County and Seminole. First, someone who has a big heart for caregivers and who has put a lot of emphasis on training his officers in the proper ways to engage with people with dementia and their caregivers. Sheriff Bob Gualtieri was first appointed as Pinellas County Sheriff by the governor in November 2011 and was elected to his first full term in 2012. And yes, that term is expiring this year, and he's running for re-election, correct?
Yes.
All right. Sheriff Gualtieri began his law enforcement career more than 30 years ago and has served in 3 major bureaus: patrol, investigative, and detention corrections. He is an attorney and is active in civic work, serving on the board of directors of the Pinellas Education Foundation, Pinellas Homeless Leadership Board, Police Athletic League, and Suncoast Boys and Girls Club, among others. Ladies and gentlemen, Sheriff Bob Gualtieri. Also, and on his right is Heather Burford, Fire Chief of the City of Seminole. Chief Burford assumed her position in January 2014, only the second female fire chief in Seminole in the department's history. She began her fire service career 27 years ago as a volunteer firefighter in Wilton, Connecticut, and spent 25 years as a career firefighter and fire officer in Connecticut before fulfilling a career goal of what? Moving to Florida. As a lifelong learner, Chief Burford has a master's degree in public administration and is a graduate of the National Fire Academy's Executive Fire Officer Program. As a certified paramedic for over 25 years, she has worked in large EMS systems in several U.S. cities where she participated in incident prevention initiatives to improve community health and safety. Ladies and gentlemen, Chief Heather Burford. Now, we asked the sheriff and chief to consider addressing a few of the most frequently asked questions that we hear from caregivers. And I'd like to start with Sheriff Gualtieri and ask him to explain Project Lifesaver and how it can keep a loved one safe.
Thanks, David. Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with you. It's not on. He's got it. That's the guy in the back. Okay, can you hear me now? Is that better? Okay. Anyway, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here with you, and I understand that this is a conference that focuses on the caregivers, and so that's what I'm going to tailor my remarks to, and specifically from the caregiver's perspective, the interaction with law enforcement, and what you can do to help us and what we can do to help you. And I think one of the biggest things that we can do to help you is encourage you to do a couple of things that will give you peace of mind. That if that person, because as we know, there's a propensity for wandering, and it's a big concern because that's where the jeopardy is, that's where they get hurt, is that we want the same thing you want, which is to be able to find that person as quickly as we possibly can and return them to you safely. Unfortunately, what we have found over time and over years is that somebody ends up missing, and they end up missing in a variety of different ways. Some have the ability to get in cars and drive off, and I'll talk about the silver alert, and that's where that comes in. But a lot of the time, I'd say the majority of the time that we see is that they're walking, perhaps even on a bicycle, but they're wandering and it's on foot. And the most important thing, absolute most important thing to us is that we are in a position where we can return them to you as quickly and as safely as we can. But there's also a reality that goes with that, and the reality is that it takes, because we are so committed to it, that it takes an absolute tremendous amount of resources and personnel that we dedicate to that, and sometimes for hours and hours and hours to check everywhere we possibly can. So this is where technology comes in. And with Project Lifesaver, it's been around for, I believe, around 17 years or so, and we first started it here in Pinellas County, probably now going back maybe around about 10 years ago, and we try and publicize it. But in its simplest form, it's fitting the person with Alzheimer's with a GPS device, a wristband, and so that when they do go missing, that we can immediately find out where they are and return them to you. And there's different ways that it works, and some of it's with GPS, some of it's with a transmitter and a receiver, and we have to put it up in the helicopter, but we can find the person, and we have great success with it. So what I encourage people to do, and for a caregiver, is to make that investment. It's not free to us, so it's a cost involved of it of about $300 a year, and that includes the 12 annual battery changes that have to happen every single month. And then after the first year, there's a maintenance fee of $70. Now, I get and understand that $300 is a lot of money, but the peace of mind that goes with that is well worth the investment, and it really helps us to help you. Unfortunately, we have not had in this county, and even though we've marketed it and through education and through our community policing deputies and through crime prevention, and we have not had a strong response to Project Lifesaver. We have many, many more people that need it that don't have it. So I would encourage you, and we will fit people, even if you live in one of the cities that has their own police department that's not a participant in Project Lifesaver. So if you don't know, I'm going to digress for a minute so you know the landscape. There's 24 different cities in Pinellas County. 13 of them don't have a police department. 13 of them contract with the sheriff to be their police provider. So our primary service area are those 13 cities, including Seminole, and the unincorporated part of the county. But you have 10 cities that do have their own police department, including Largo and Pinellas Park and Clearwater. But we will fit people with the wristbands and the Project Lifesaver devices, even if you're in one of those cities that has their own police department that doesn't participate. And all they have to do is call us. We'll take the equipment out, and we'll help find the loved one. So, again, I really encourage you, if you can, is to just become knowledgeable about it and encourage others to make that investment in Project Lifesaver, because when you talk about for yourselves, for the caregiver, and for peace of mind knowing that if that does happen and they do wander off, that you can get them back timely and safe. And that's really what this does. And according to Project Lifesaver, they have about 1,400 participating member agencies throughout the United States, including some in Canada. And they have performed over 3,100 searches in the last 17 years. And every single one of those, according to Project Lifesaver, they've successfully returned the person. Where we don't get the people successfully returned is because they're gone for extended periods of time, and unfortunately they wander into ponds, or you find them, in a ditch, and those kinds of things. Those aren't good results. So I really encourage you to consider Project Lifesaver. Spread the word about it. If you have any questions, you can contact our Crime Prevention Division. There's information on our website about it. The next thing I want to talk to you about is Silver Alert. I think most of you have heard about it. It helps to accomplish the same thing, and that is to have the community at large extend those eyes and ears, if you will, but they extend the eyes, especially when that person does wander and they're in a vehicle. It first started here in Florida in 2008 when the governor signed an executive order, and when that Silver Alert is issued, and I think most everybody's familiar, is that it takes the vehicle description, it takes the tag number, and it broadcasts on all of those digital billboard signs on roadways around the state. so that people who are driving hopefully will be alert, and then they'll call law enforcement. And it also broadcasted in some social media and through other ways those silver alerts go out. So at the end of the day, for us, to be there for you is to find that person and return them to you safely. These are a couple of ways that we do it. I would suggest to you that Project Lifesaver is even much more effective. It's probably the most effective tool. It's even much more effective than Silver Alert, because the Silver Alert is that they're already gone. We're got to be eyes out there trying to find a car. But if they have that bracelet on and we have the signal that's being emitted, we can return people to you, very, very quickly. And we have deputies on duty all the time that are trained in how to use the equipment. So from a caregiver's perspective, that's our role. We want to be your partner. We want to help you and return these people as quickly as possible. So that's kind of the first responder view on what our role is in every day providing support to you as the caregivers.
Thank you, Sheriff. Now let's get to Chief Burford. Chief, could you share with us what you and your department have come across involving dangers in homes where there are people with a neurological disorder such as Alzheimer's? For example, the danger of fires, which is your specialty. What can caregivers do to prevent such emergencies?
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? This was such a good question, and it really got me thinking last week when I received the questions via email, that the diversity of calls that we get associated with folks with dementia issues is quite wide. But a few come to mind that sort of stick out as the more common ones. And just so that you understand how the EMS system works here in the county, there are 18 different fire departments that all provide EMS care at the paramedic level across the county. We're just one of the 18. In our organization alone, we're doing 12,000 calls. Across the county, we're responding to about 175,000 calls for service each year. 86% of those calls are EMS related. So a majority of our work when you see us out there is EMS related. And a lot has to do with dealing with dementia folks. The biggest call type that we get, which probably is not a surprise to you, are the falls. Across the county, we respond to 23,000 calls a year, which to me is just absolutely, it's disturbing. I think that one of the areas we're going to see a lot more attention paid is in fall prevention programs. Simple ideas in your homes, from removing clutter to slippery rugs to grab rails in restrooms. Those are the kind of easy things that can be done to prevent those falls. And it's falls, typically we do see falls in bathrooms, small bathrooms, slippery surfaces in showers and tubs. But then we also see them on as I say, items, clutter inside the home that either somebody's not paying attention to. Occasionally you have a situation here where you have stairs. People tend to put things on stairs waiting to take them up to the second floor. If that's not the case, it's just poor lighting can also cause problems with falls. So there are a number of ways, just looking around your house, being conscious about the items that are around, the items that may cause potential incidents, and trying to reduce the number of falls that are occurring. As I say, I think you're going to see more effort on a countywide basis to try to get some prevention programs in place. We have sophisticated dispatch systems now that can pinpoint exactly where our falls are taking place. And we can look on maps and see critical areas where the number of falls per capita of folks is at its highest. So we can actually, on a small level, pinpoint an area and do a pilot program. That's what we're hoping to be able to do. Any of you have considered hazardous areas in your homes? If you think of garages and sheds, any areas where you keep chemicals or cleaning supplies in your homes, those tend to be areas that cause problems as well. If they're easily accessible to folks, sometimes, again, it's clutter inside these places, it's slippery surfaces, it's the actual products that are stored in these areas that can cause problems, and we're frequently dealing with incidents where folks have gotten into these types of situations. Again, it's being aware of your environment, trying to secure items that need to be secured or out of reach, place them. We see a lot of appliance incidents, believe it or not. Anything from appliances and electricity, so hair dryers in bathtubs, curling irons in bathtubs that, of course, do not mix and can become a potential hazard. We do see heating appliances, anything from space heaters to ovens, grills. Gas grills can be an issue that we have responded to and taken care of folks. Unfortunately, we are usually on the side where something has occurred and the system has had to be activated, and we're out to try to mitigate the problem. So a lot of times there's an incident that's already happened. Mechanical appliances as well, anything from blenders to mixers. You know, a lot of us have minimal cupboard space in our kitchens, so we tend to leave items that we use frequently out on the counters. A blender can be a real problem if somebody is using one and is not cautious, so they can cause problems. Power tools, also in the garage, that same idea. Some of the power tools, I know that in my own family experience, a family member who was very familiar with power tools when he was younger believed that was still something that he could have access to and could use safely, and that resulted in a bit of an incident for us. And again, those are things that on a periodic basis we recommend that a home is evaluated from top to bottom, from left to right, of all the different items that could potentially cause problems. Smoking incidents we do see as well, although not as much anymore, thank goodness. I think there's a stronger thought and consideration to not having smokers around and trying to include cessation programs. But we do see discarded materials, inappropriately discarded materials, causing small fires, or just a forgetting of materials that are burning that can cause potentials. And in the right environment, those can certainly cause problems. We do see the occasional food mishap or mistaken food items. Believe it or not, some of your plastic or waxed fruits and vegetables and items, flower arrangements and things that are put out as decorations can occasionally be mistaken for food. And some of the plants, natural plants that are poisonous to animals and humans, will sometimes be ingested. And we've dealt with situations like that as well. And then, of course, probably the next one to fall, the biggest one, is mistaken medications. And it's simply a situation where someone believes they need to take a medication that they come across. So again, just that monitoring of those medications and knowing where those items are and when they're supposed to be distributed. One of the things we find very helpful is the little medication distributors that everybody uses. You put your pills in Monday through Sunday, which is so helpful to the people taking the medications. It can be a little bit challenging for us, only because we don't know what the blue pill's all about. And so I'm going to talk a little bit later about some of the things you can do to help if you do have to call 911 and being able to identify those medications so that we can gear the treatment appropriately for the person who's ingested those medications. So there's a whole variety of things that occur, pretty much anything that you can think that folks get themselves into with or without dementia, we're dealing with. But I think as we start to get a little bit more aggressive in some of our prevention programs, we're going to see some of these things start to decline. A great question.
Chief, I have a question to elaborate on those. You said 76% of the calls involve EMTs care. I don't know how many of them there are that involve the caregiver needing EMT care. Is there a protocol in place for the caregiver of a dementia patient who is incapacitated regarding the list of the medications and if there's a do not resuscitate order or any kind of papers?
And the question is, if the 911 call were for the caregiver?
Yeah, and they can't respond because they're ill.
Yeah, it's such a great question, and it's one of those situations where a lot of times we're dealing with situations where it's couples. So it's the dementia, individual with dementia, and then it's the caregiver. If the 911 call or the incident is involving the caregiver, it does get a little bit more challenging. You know, we approach the scene as an entire incident, and so we're not going to leave somebody with dementia who needs that kind of guidance. We're going to work to try to find somebody who's going to be able to continue that support if the caregiver needs to go to the hospital. This is one of those incidents where it's so important to participate in programs that provide your documentation and your medical needs as caregivers as well as your family members, so that in the home, if we can find either, with our system, we have a File of Life program, and it's a little program where you put all your demographic and your medical history, your medications, your allergies, your emergency contact information on a sheet, and you put it on your refrigerator. We can get access to that so that we can treat you appropriately, limit the number of questions we have to ask you, treat you appropriately, but then in that information to provide some sort of guidance on how your family members should be taken care of as well. Who else can we call? Will they be okay on their own for a short period of time? So there is that whole component of looking after yourself in case of an emergency so that your loved one is taken care of as well. That could be something as easy as a neighbor coming over. We do work with the Sheriff's Office very, very closely. They are wonderful in being able to provide some of that support at times as well. Again, it is time-consuming, and ultimately we want to get that person matched back up with their caregivers. But it can be very upsetting for a dementia patient who is where their caregiver is removed. So, great question.
I've actually heard that, and maybe I'm wrong, EMTs are trained, if they don't have that, can't find it, to look in the freezer, that some people store those documents in the freezer as a safety precaution. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. There are a variety of programs across the country, and depending on maybe where you came from, there was a Vial of Life program that was widespread across many of the states, and you were encouraged to put your information in this nice big, it was a giant oversized pill bottle, and you were to put it on the door inside your refrigerator or freezer. So it was sort of interesting as I explained this program to many communities that I worked in. It was always funny to see a firefighter heading right towards your fridge, But again, it was just, we were conditioned to look for these things. And whether it's a File of Life or a Vial of Life or just something that you personally put together. We have a program, but we're also going to look for the common places that you may have these things. And common places where you tend to store things like medications or information about your physicians. There are general areas. We tend to do collection points in kitchens and on fridges and in bathrooms and whatnot. So we know where to look, even if it's not a formal program. But the freezer was kind of a good idea because just about every home has a freezer, and just about every home could tolerate a little bit more room with a file. Many times my responders would come out covered in ketchup and mustard and all kinds of sticky syrups and whatnot, but those kind of programs are wonderful.
We are almost out of time for this session. Wanted to give the sheriff a chance if he wanted to wrap up statement or two.
The only thing I want to make sure I do is, if you want it, so that if you are interested in Project Lifesaver, I want to give you a direct phone number to call in our crime prevention folks, and this would be a direct line into them to get information. If you want, set up an appointment for them to come out, talk to you about it, and get you signed up. It's 727-582-6806, 582-6806, or you can also send an email to Project Lifesaver at pcsonet.com. So the phone number again is 582-6806, or an email, easy, Project Lifesaver at pcsonet.com. And if all else fails, just call the main number for the sheriff's office and ask to speak with somebody that handles Project Lifesaver. But that'll get you direct access to them, and what they'll do is set up a time to come out to your home, fill out paperwork, get you signed up, and then somebody comes out monthly and changes the batteries for you and stays in contact with you. So that's really, I think that's the best service we can offer to you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Chief, any final wrap-up?
Very quickly, if I could talk about our fantastic 911 dispatch center. If you find yourself in a situation where you need to call 911, never hesitate. We are never going to be upset at coming out to an incident to evaluate a situation that you weren't sure you needed somebody. Call 911 when you need it. Anticipate that you're going to be on the phone for a few minutes. The dispatchers are trained under sophisticated systems now to ask you a series of questions. You are going to feel like you're on the phone forever. Please understand that the units are already on the way when that 911 call is placed. So stay on the phone, be prepared to answer the questions, and let us know exactly what's going on. That helps because the dispatchers are then sending the correct units in the right mode of response. Sometimes we respond to calls, no lights, no siren. That's safer for all of us on the road. We prefer to do that. If we need to get there quickly, we will. If we won't, we'll come with the flow of traffic. So explain to folks what's doing. It even actually lets us know what kind of equipment we should bring into your homes. Make sure your front doors are unlocked. Flag us down if you can. It just speeds the process up. Obviously, render care if you can. And be prepared for us to ask the questions about the history and the medications and things like that I talked about before. We have a phenomenal system. When I say in my little short bio there that career goal was to move to Florida, because the state of Florida's fire service and EMS services are so sophisticated, I wanted to be a part of it. You are living in one of the best systems in this state right here in Pinellas County. There's a lot to offer. Take advantage of it. Thank you.